Ordinary Football. So we're back. We're going to call this like a second segment of the episode, or really just kind of a second episode, a standalone, if you will. So we talked about Champions and Europa League. Great talk. As you can see, we got that passion that we needed out of our wonderful friend here, Flash, as always. However, we're going to move on to some things that I really feel like have been newsworthy, but we just really haven't gotten to. So I want to start with bringing it back to kind of Man City, first of all. So Man City recently said that Aguero is definitely leaving in the summer, and that they're going to put a statue up of Aguero. So when we talk about Man City's history and kind of, their recently bought history, what does it mean about the fact that, and this is a loaded question, so take your time in breaking it down for me, but what does it mean to you, and maybe not so much as an Arsenal fan, but just a fan of football? I know you respect Kun Aguero, but tell me, what does it mean as far as the fact that Man City's about to put pretty much one of their first statues up, and the fact that they're about to honor one of the top goal scorers in the Prem, and that he was rolling with Man City this whole time? And then also talk to me about what you think the best avenue for him should be, because he went through a lot of injuries this year during a COVID year, and I believe that he should go play somewhere else where it's still top level competition, because he's less of, obviously he's probably less athletic, but I still think he's at a decent age where he can still perform on a high level, almost similar to Zlatan. But please give me your opinion on both of those things.
So there's really three parts to this question from what I can see, right? There's how do I view Manchester's influence on the Premier League because they have one of their best retiring? How does Kun Aguero fit into Manchester's history? And then what's the best avenue for him, right? So I've kind of said this before. I don't like Manchester City, regardless of even the sourcing of their money, which is really an issue for not podcast hosts, but more international courts, right? Regardless of the sourcing of their money, assuming all of it is legitimate, they've still spent head and shoulders above everyone. So the unfair advantage that really has generated has been really kind of just unfun to watch, right? Especially since they don't really have that Premier League history. But here's the thing, right? That's more of a problem I have with the owners. That's really more a problem I have with the people patronizing the club, giving more and more money. I can't blame the players. I can't blame Guardiola, right? A player's not just going to look to a club and say, oh, I don't want to go there because, like, I'm going to be super successful. So I'm not going to blame the players and act like they should boycott Man U. I think that's really something that needs to happen at a higher level. So that's really my take on their impact on the Premier League. But I definitely think it sours it because it takes away from the competition, right? So that's my first answer. Second of all, when it comes to Man U, or Man City, I apologize. When it comes to Man City, I think Aguero is probably the first, if not the second most prolific player in the history of Manchester City, right? Just that absolutely stunning goal to win them the title after Man U had not clinched it, but had it in their hands.
Yeah.
The Aguero! That's like a worldwide, like, famous moment. That's fun even to watch as a neutral. I think the only player that's really close for him as far as competition for that, like, best ever Man City spot is maybe like David Silva or Vincent Kompany. Okay. That being said, I think Aguero's probably above both of them. Honest to God, like, if we're looking at best Premier League strikers of all time, I think Aguero's probably like second, like a very, very solid second behind Thierry Henry.
Don't piss off some of the old people who watch this.
No, I mean, let's not even say second, right? I think it would be uncontroversial to say Sergio Aguero is a top 5 Premier League striker of all time. However you rack and stack them, you can go with it from there. No disrespect to Henry or Shearer or anyone else. Yeah. Okay. But what's the best avenue from him? I've seen him say stuff, I haven't seen him say stuff, but I've seen reports that allege that he might want to go to Chelsea. I've seen him linked to Arsenal, basically to kind of stay within the Premier League and keep breaking records. I don't think that's the best option from him, to be completely honest. I think moving to another league and just kind of ending it on such a high note would be good, right? It's always difficult to watch players who get super old kind of struggle or like fade into like averageness. And it wouldn't really tarnish his reputation because he's done so well, but it's just like he's so good. Like, if it were me, I would just want to leave on a high.
Okay.
He has roots with Atletico Madrid. I would love to maybe see like a return to that, especially because Suarez is also older as well. So maybe they might need someone to
Yeah.
replace him. So I would say like maybe going to Spain. I'd like to see him do that. Not Barcelona though. They already have
Yeah, I
enough
mean, if he's going to
dinosaurs.
replace Suarez, go to Atletico Madrid where they just defend and say Suarez
Mm-hmm.
scored goals. Okay, I like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I actually have something else then. So you spoke about Man City's urge every summer and really just all the time that there's a transfer window, it's open. You spoke about their urge to pretty much spend money. We all know that every single season, doesn't matter. Uh, what does that mean for like their youth development system as far as the fact that when you look at other Premier League teams who don't always who none of them spend money like Man City, especially on a consistent basis. What does that mean in terms of youth development when you look at some of the dudes that come into these other teams and they kind of get pressured to perform immediately or else they have to move on compared to when you look at a guy like Phil Foden, who for me I I really respect him. I think he's very talented, but I also feel like he's overrated because he was a youth prospect that came onto a team that was already so prolific. So if he make mistakes, the other 10 dudes are going to make up for it. Like there's very
Yeah.
little
Oh yeah.
pressure.
I see what you mean.
So tell me, what does that mean to you when people, say Phil Foden's the best young player in the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say because he plays with such a talented lineup, but at the same time, he still does a lot of things individually. I think especially with Phil Foden, the passes he makes and the dribbles he makes, he's benefiting from the run some of them are playing, and obviously Guardiola is setting
Yeah,
them up. But I think it'd be unfair to Phil Foden to really discount him because I think Phil Foden is like one of the top young English players. What I will say though is it goes kind of back to that culture piece, right?
okay,
For a lot of local fans especially, there's nothing more prideful than seeing like one of the young lads who's been with the club. Like look at Bukayo Saka. Like he's been at the club, Arsenal, for such a young age. He's gone through all of like the U9, U10, U whatever, U21 teams. He's been there through all
right,
of it. He's watched growing these players, and then he finally gets his shot. So you see that with Phil Foden, but there's really not many others beside that. So I know for a lot of people, like there's a source of immense pride in the community for being able to develop your own players.
okay,
That's one thing that I think just lacks from the fanfare of it. To be honest,
okay.
I have a
I
question
like
for
that.
you though,
Oh, go
if
ahead,
you have any
please,
follow
please,
ons to
please. No,
that.
no more following.
So staying in the Premier League, staying in the Premier League, if you had to say out of the top six, who is the traditional top six? So,
Okay.
who has been the most disappointing side out of that top six?
Well, you're just setting this up, because I know what you want me to say. Well, I'm actually going to say something different. So I know you want me to say Arsenal because you have been disappointed as fuck. However,
I
um,
don't. I don't want you to say Arsenal. I want you. I want Knight. I want you to say what you want to
all right,
say.
traditional top six. Let's go over the traditional top six first of all. So this does not include Leicester, who has really made their way into it. I called the last couple of years. Um, so I called Liverpool. All right, let's do this. Liverpool, Man City, Man U, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham. Is that fair?
Correct. Yeah.
Uh, so it's actually Manchester United who's been the most disappointing. Here's why. And this is kind of like a 10.
How? Okay. Okay. I'll
It's
listen. I'll listen.
definitely a 10-year thing for me. So like it's easy to say this year. No, obviously it's Arsenal this year. But in the last 10 years, I really feel like ever since Fergie left, and really all he did was just go back 3 rows on the bench. Um, I feel because I know that there's the curse of Fergie. If he's in the stands, you just can't compete. Um, I feel like Man United has just been through so many managers and so many different tactics and so many different players and so many different technical, like just so many different pieces that they've never really found anything to continue that just dominating legacy. Because let's be honest, like there was a time in the Premier League where people were sick of Man United. It was like a sickness. People who weren't fans wanted nothing to do with them. They wanted them to lose. I'm not going to say they were like Man City because they really did just develop and find the right players. It was a different kind of sport then. But I feel like right now, maybe Ole is the guy. I don't know. We need to see at least another season to see if next year they do compete like he says they should, because it was part of his 3-year plan. But if it isn't, it's going to be really disappointing if they go to another guy, because they've just been cycling through managers, and I really feel like nothing's worked until this point. I feel like they're okay right now, but somebody has to take them back to greatness, because even though Arsenal's been the most disappointing this year, I just feel like Man United is nothing compared to what they used to be, and a lot of that enamor and aura that used to surround them has just been slowly trickling off, almost to a point where I could see them. Where no, I won't say I could see them. They were almost falling off for a little while, and I thought that would happen after Josie left. So that's who was disappointed me the most, mainly because when I was growing up and playing like FIFA, trying to connect to the Premier League from the States, that's the team who I thought was just the most dominant. And they had a really big fall from grace. So that's my answer. What about you? Give me your answer.
I feel like I'm gonna see you start straightening your hair and like working at Hot Topic or something, because that's an edgy take.
Oh wow, that's offensive. Okay. Shout out, sorry. You know,
No.
I can't say. Go ahead. I was gonna say shout out Brandon, but I'm not gonna.
I think it's difficult, right? I think Man U have been disappointed with the way they fell out of the title race. But I think if you definitely look at all 6 of these clubs, there's no way you can say they've been the most disappointing, right? You have Bruno Fernandes, who's probably going to be the best player in the Premier League this year.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of positives, even with some of the youth Man U has. They have been disappointed, like I said, in the way they fell off of the title. But I'll tell you who I think has been the worst.
There's only one.
Not the worst, but the most disappointing.
There's only one wrong answer, so watch it.
Fair enough. I think the most disappointing, and this is not the worst, right? I'll make the distinction between it. The most disappointing top 6 Premier League side is Tottenham.
Yeah, okay, I knew it.
For me. Right. You could talk about your bias here, or my bias here, but let's look at it, right? Spurs are in 7th place. Mourinho's been in charge for over a year and a half, and even as it speaks, today they drew against Everton, who are in 8th. It looks very difficult because they're going to have to battle directly with Chelsea or Liverpool to secure a Europa League slot. They're 5 points off of a Champions League slot with 6 games to go. And this is rough, man. They don't have really any good youth talent coming through the ranks. They have a couple decent players. I'll ask you some questions about Kane, but he said he wants to leave. And on top of this, they went out absolutely horridly to Dynamo Zagreb in the Europa League. A Dynamo Zagreb that literally their head coach was removed on legal charges, and they had a backup manager and still managed to hold a clean sheet and beat Tottenham in the reverse leg of that picture. They got Bale back. Bale didn't work. They bought Bergwijn, which looks like a shrewd investment. He didn't work. They have Jose Mourinho, which is unarguably one of the best managers of all time, who is kind of clearly past his prime as far as this goes. And this is kind of hinging on how they do in the Carabao Cup, but I really don't value the energy drink chalice too much. So I just think they've been really disappointing, man. They're a team that before Jose came in always secured Champions League competition, and now they're fighting for the scraps of a Europa League place from a team that Jose Mourinho literally came in that went to the finals of the Champions League that year. What are your thoughts on that, Knight? Because I have some more follow-up questions after that.
I won't really argue with that, because when you look at the top 6 and you look at who has the least amount of trophies as of recent, it's Tottenham. And I think the energy drink cup, even though we both hate it, just make one cup, Jesus. But they do have so many teams that compete for both. I think there's relevance to it, but let's be honest, we don't care. Yes. Tottenham has been disappointing. I think you are not being fair about Bergwijn. He's still incredibly young, still incredible talent, still plays great on the international stage, and there's no point to look at him any other way. However, I'm gonna need you to scale back that Bale hate, all right? Because first of all, my man has scored 10 goals for a team that honestly is not suited for his play style. Like Josie, I
just want to read you this off.
Go ahead.
Bergwijn is 23 years old, and this year he's registered 2 assists in 17 games. That's his
Okay.
credentials. Last year he had 3 goals in 14 games and an
Okay.
assist. Does that sound like a top talent to you?
For whose system? Because seriously though, what kind of attacking ball?
No, I see what
What
you
kind of
mean. I see what
attacking
you
ball
mean.
does
I just think
Chelsea
the
like to
boat.
play? Come on,
Yeah.
what does he like to play?
No, and that's one of my points we'll get to in a second. But I mean, that's just. I think the ship has kind of sailed on
I don't think
Bergwijn a
so at
little
all. I
bit.
think there'd be a lot of teams that would take him off their hands in a heartbeat because he
Okay,
plays well in the international
so let
stage.
me
That's
ask
the
you
thing.
this,
So
right?
go ahead.
Sure. And he put up numbers at PSV, and the Dutch league is still pretty reputable
Yeah.
for youngsters. All right. So here's the thing, though. Here's the biggest concerning thing I think for Tottenham, right? They're out of the Champions League this
Yeah.
year. They're not looking good in their chances against Man City for the energy drink gauntlet. But most concerningly of all, one of, if not arguably the best Tottenham player of all time, a former Arsenal Academy player, FYI,
Mm,
Harry Kane, has been rumored very heavily to be leaving his club if they can't secure him Champions
yeah.
League football. Now, just to get a background,
Yeah.
this man has been on an absolute madness. This man, Harry Kane, in 30 appearances in the Premier League, has had 21 goals and 13 assists. Insane. He's the focal point for their team. He's the second most valuable player worldwide, and he's estimated at $130 million
Hmm.
USD. If he leaves, right, I don't think it's worth assessing if he will, if he will not, but if he leaves, what should Spurs do to rebuild?
Oof, man, that's tough because is he? So I haven't looked into it, and also you mentioned his goals before, goals and assists, and it was something like 18 and 6 or something like that. The last time you mentioned, I was trying to poke holes in it, I couldn't. He was doing it all over the place, so good props to him. Even though I feel like he had a hotter start to the season at the beginning than the end, but I will say, um, is he leaving on the end of a contract, or is it just the fact that he's going to request a transfer? Because I saw that.
I think he's going to request a
Okay,
transfer. To be honest,
cool.
I haven't looked into it too much, but let's assume. Okay, let's assume it's a situation like Bale, right? Just for the just to build out like this
Yeah,
idea, right? Let's assume he leaves. They pay just straight on the value, which in reality would probably be more. So Tottenham loses their best player, Harry Kane, and they get 130 million USD.
yeah.
Who do you buy with that to fix that
So that's what I
hole?
was going to say.
And also, this is one thing I want to point
Uh,
out as well. If you replace Harry Kane, given what Mourinho's done at these past 2 years, do you think it's worth keeping Mourinho because that 130 million is going to get invested in a very specific brand of football?
yes.
So 2 questions: who do you buy? Do you keep
Yeah,
Mourinho?
so that's the important thing right there, and that's what I was going to speak to. So that was my main question because again, it's like if he's leaving on free, what do you do? Because they spent they spent $1 billion on that stadium, right? Um, and you have to get some money back for Harry Kane. You can't just let him walk. So
Mm-hmm.
I get $130 million. I keep Josie. I
Mm-hmm.
give him 2 years, but I also give him the squad that he wants. So I go buy a actually I don't go buy a striker. I go try and lure in a striker who is maybe older and can get there on a free. So maybe Kun Aguero. And then I bring in a team that can defend like all hell. So I go to Napoli and I get Koulibaly. I bring him in to secure my back line. Uh, Alderweireld is old as hell, so he's got to go. There's a whole bunch of contracts that are going to go. I bring in a whole bunch of dudes with that wage money that can really just. I don't need to score a lot of goals in today's game. What I need is to have a team that's not going to make mistakes because I feel like every time I watch a Premier League game, it almost feels like most goals are coming from mistakes leading to immediate counterattacks that just looks you just know when it's coming. So I get a whole bunch of guys that I can trust. and that's really what he needs. I would go to Arsenal and I would buy Party if I could. I think he'd be a great center defensive mid who can still attack in some sense, or at least make the right pass in the final third. Because he's not a bum at all. He's amazing. I'm so surprised that
So
Atletico Madrid let him leave. What's up?
yeah, so you're kind of doing what Tottenham originally did with Bale, right? Kind of spend it on like 7 or 8 different players and kind of look to build up that holistic squad view. I actually disagree. I actually think it'd be a lot better for them to bring in like another talisman after Harry Kane leaves.
Like who?
Because here's the thing: without Harry Kane, I'm gonna get into that in a second. I'm just gonna go through the preamble real quick. But I think when Harry Kane leaves, you just kind of have Son sitting there alone, like Lo Celso, or not Lo Celso, sorry, Eric Lamela, not really good enough to start regularly. Bergwijn, not really good enough for the system. Vinicius, that I think Brazilian or Portuguese playmaker they have, he's not really good enough there. So I would come in with that 130 million US dollar value, and I'm spending at least half of it on a replacement striker, right? Because if we look at how Tottenham play, they utilize that center focal point. So you need someone to replace him. You can't just put someone who's 50-50 in there. So I'm buying 2 players initially off the rip. I'm buying a player who I think is long-term, high money, 5-star youth talent, or 5-star prospect to kind of lead my team throughout the years. And that player I'm selecting would be just someone like Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan. I think
you can't afford him.
He's valued. If we are going purely off the value of what Harry Kane is, 133 million US dollars. Lautaro Martinez is 77.
You know he's going to go for more than 77.
You could say the same about Harry Kane.
No, because how old is Harry Kane? Is he 28?
27.
He's 27. Lautaro Martinez is incredibly young, bro. And you know Inter Milan.
23.
Inter Milan's going to be like, nah. I want 100.
Just if possible, right? Even for 100.
They told Barcelona we want 100 million.
Even for 100 million, I'm taking Lautaro Martinez and I'm taking that additional 30 million US dollars and I'm buying a second striker. Ooh. I'm buying a backup, more trustworthy striker. I think you made a good point with Sergio Aguero, but I think he's maybe a little bit older, so I want to buy someone who's 29 or 30, and proven in the Premier League, right? Because on some chance, if Lautaro Martinez kind of just falls out, doesn't make it, kind of does what Pepe did at Arsenal, where he takes so long to acclimate, you need someone who's going to be an instant proven Premier League success, and there's 2 players I'm lining up. As an Arsenal fan, I don't want to see it happen, but I think Lacazette would be the perfect player for Tottenham. Decent hold-up play, can distribute the ball, play similar to Harry Kane, gets 10-plus goals a Premier League season, if not 15-plus. And there's actually 2 other players other than Laka. Bobby Firmino plays that same false 9 holding role. Liverpool are probably looking to offload him. And then finally, Danny Ings. Dude's a focal point. He's ready to play on a team that gives him the majority of the ball. What's your take on that?
Danny Ings is taken. Man City already said they want him.
Okay.
I know. Could you imagine? And then, because I love that. I think he is not a creator. I mean, he's a professional footballer. Sure, he can create, but he is a finisher.
Premier League proven.
He is a finisher. He's going to put the ball in the net, and it's pretty evident that he could probably get a 25 piece in the right system, especially like a Man City where they just feed him. However, I hate your other take. Who'd you say? Who was the one you said right before him?
Firmino. Yeah, I said Firmino and Lacazette.
Firmino, bro. My man is a creator, but I'm starting to see Firmino as less of a false 9 because that's not a real position anymore. We talked about that. He looks so much like a center attacking mid because it looks like he just creates for Salah and Mane, but they have like this pincer attack, you know? It's like Firmino's back here and Mane and Salah up here, and they just do this, but there's no attacker up here. There's no real strike. There's no real true striker because Firmino's is definitely creative, but he doesn't have the pace anymore. Honestly, he never really did, but he definitely doesn't have it anymore to be able to really get up there and deal with it. He has good size, but to deal with any big center backs that maybe you need more pace on, especially for any forward pass, I just don't see it. But I like the Danny Ings suggestion. And honestly, you know who reminds me of Harry Kane? Danny Ings.
Danny Ings?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I like
Maybe
that.
even someone else who's been Premier League proven, as well as some of these younger strikers coming as well. Maybe Che Adams is worth an investment. Not as the main dude, but like
Oh, I can see him being a
as
good
a
backup.
second striker.
I can see that.
Yeah, like you kind of develop him.
I can see that. Yeah.
All right, I'll pass it off to you for the next topic. You got something for me? I got one more, but I think you got a couple more than I
I do
do.
got a couple more. So something that kind of bothered me, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Um, my man's did not get picked up recently in the WCQ games, and then he also is going to be left off of the Euros roster. Uh, and again, this is like I think it's already submitted pretty much because it was a report that said that.
Yeah.
I am mind blown, but
Yeah.
I just want to know what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just empirically the incorrect decision. Yeah. Like, it's just straight up wrong. Like, there's really not much else you can say, right? You can argue that there are different tactical configurations that Trent Alexander-Arnold wouldn't be the best in, but I'd have to see the lineup as well. I imagine they're probably going to be taking players like Reece James and Kyle Walker, right? You can very easily take, like, Kyle Walker and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then just based on how you want to line up, play either one of them. Like, you don't necessarily have to start him, but to not take Trent Alexander-Arnold, one of the best crossers and creators in the Premier League, is just so bad, right? Because England, and I have to look at their group. Who are England playing in the Euros?
I'm actually pulling it up right now. I just also want to say, as I'm pulling it up, though.
So England, they're playing Croatia, Czech Republic, and Scotland, right? So here's the thing, too. They're not playing a bunch of teams that are going to come out and press them. Croatia would be the only one. When they play against Czech Republic and Scotland, those teams are going to sit there and just be really tight. And you need a player sometimes like Trent who's going to unlock that defense. So that's why it's so mind-boggling.
Especially when, like you said, tight. Usually anytime anybody plays tight, you need stuff to come from the outside. Mm-hmm. And a good cross can just dismantle that, especially when you look at the kind of strikers that England takes on. You know, like we just said, Harry Kane, Danny Ings, taller, bigger bodies. Yeah. They need service. Calvert-Lewin needs service. Look at what Everton does. They swing that ball in there. Why the hell would you not take TA?
Oh, dude. Especially considering that Southgate for the World Cup has been a fan of the three backs with his wing backs getting further up on the pitch. Like, it's mind-boggling. Like, that's the ideal place for Trent.
It made no sense to me.
So,
that was
I don't know.
And I just wanted your thoughts. I'm glad that we kind of have a consensus here. So I'm going to move on to my next question because I think we both agree. Just foolish. And we'll leave it there. All right, so I want to ask about what you called a prospect, but I call a golden boy. Honestly, not a golden boy. He was a golden boy last year. This dude is proven. Erling Haaland, the big 6'6", whatever, 6'5", 6'4", incredibly fast, clinical, just current superstar, not future. Obviously, he plays for Borussia. Borussia, as we both know, is a seller's club. They get these wonderful pieces, they build them up even more, and then they say, all right, we're going to sell you for $200 million and do nothing with it because we don't want to win the Bundesliga. We just want money or whatever the hell. I don't know what they do. Maybe they upgrade their stadium. I don't know. I just don't get it. We all know that they're going to sell him. He cannot leave from his contract, or at least there's no release clause until next year. But he can be sold this summer, to which they said we want nothing less than $150 million. So with realistic expectations, where do you think he should go, or do you even think he should leave? And even though you think he may go somewhere, what is the best fit? And if you don't think there's a best fit, does he even need a fit the way that he plays and the fact that he's so versatile?
Yeah, those are all good questions to bring up too. I actually don't think he needs a fit.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that might hurt him is a language barrier. That's one of the only things I worry about him say going to like a club like Spain, because he is from Norway. I'm assuming he's probably pretty proficient in English.
Yeah,
I've heard him
yeah,
talk
same.
before. Norwegian. He's been in Austria and Germany, so I assume he has a background there. But I took like 3 years of Spanish in high school. I'm still having problems with
Same.
it. It's a lot different from the
Yeah,
English language. It's important to notate for this as well that Holland can be sold in a year for his transfer clause of 75
yeah,
million. So they're going to want to unload him before then, because he's obviously worth much more than
absolutely.
that. I personally, from a fan level, I want to see him stay at BVB. Right, BVB are the German underdogs. They have such a young class of stars: Giovanni Reina, Jadon Sancho, Erling Haaland, all kind of grandfathered by this master splinter type figure of Marco Reus, who's one of my all-time favorite players outside of Arsenal.
Yeah,
I want to see him stay just because I feel like it suits him so much. But if he has to go, I really want to avoid seeing him go to Spain.
why?
I don't know. We've seen, like, I just feel like we're pushing towards this Holland at Barcelona, Mbappe at Real Madrid, just like pseudo, like Messi versus Ronaldo. And I don't want to see that. I want to see a new chapter, right? I want to see that open up. Holland is such a physical player. I think he has a lot of what it takes to make it in the Premier League, the world's hardest domestic
Yeah,
league. And I want to see him really prove that he could be one of the GOATs in the Premier League, right? Because that's the question you always hear when you see these players that haven't played in the Premier League. Like, how would they be, right? That's one of the reasons Thierry Henry is so goated. He did it in the Premier
yeah,
League. Sergio Aguero is goated. He did it in the Premier League. Same thing with Rooney. So I want to see him go to the Premier League, but it's also hard because I know he won't come to Arsenal because we don't have that much money. So assuming it's not Arsenal, like, I think if he went to Man City, I'd throw up in my mouth.
oh,
So I'd like to see him maybe go to Liverpool.
ooh,
I'd like to kind of see something like that happen if I had to pick
ooh,
an English Premier side that wasn't Arsenal.
wow. I love the way you answered those questions. So I'm gonna run it back for you.
That's what I do. That was the next question I had for you. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I want him. I want him to go to Liverpool. I'll get into that, or Man United,
Wow,
or
that is like
yeah,
that's odd. We're both so spot on.
yeah, or Man United. I'll get into that too. I think
No,
I,
Skip.
I think he should leave for his brand. I don't want him to leave because yes, I love BVB. They're kind of the German underdogs you spoke of, and honestly, if there was a German team I do root for, it's them. Just because I really love that rivalry between themselves and Bayern. However, I do think he has a
Mm,
fit, and I don't think the fit matters. I think the fit would be perfect on Liverpool because could you imagine
mm.
Sane and
Oh, the
Sal? Oh
counters.
my God,
Oh
be
my
terrifying
god.
because you have these two shifty
Yeah.
little shits out on the wings, and and they can just do all kinds of things, and then they've got this
Oh
big,
my god.
terrifying Eastern European, or excuse me, Northern European monster running down at the same speed, who's just as talented with his feet and is clinical with his finishes. I think that would be amazing. I think him and Klopp would just terrorize the media because they just love to ridicule them. And I think it'd be really fun watching him do those post match interviews. And then I don't think the fit matters because he's Erling Haaland, and I really believe that he may be a more complete player than Mbappe. He just hasn't had that stage to show it because Mbappe did it at the World Cup, even though he plays for France, who has like 50,000 players who could all play for anybody who they wanted. I would like to see him instead go to Man United, not just because of his relationship with Ole, but because I think he would bring Man United back to those glory days. And the one thing that Man United has been struggling for as they've tried to find themselves is a true striker. I know some people are going to argue that Marcus Rashford is a striker. He is not. He is an attacker. And I think he plays best off the left wing where he can cut in, kind of like kind of like how, you know what, I don't want to make comparisons. I know some people won't like that.
No, I feel you. I see
I
what you're
think it would
saying.
just be,
The doomsday sin.
I think he would legit be the piece that would put Man United back into top club of the world.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the doomsday scenario, right? Little known fact, but Holland, despite being Norwegian, both of his parents are
Leeds.
Norwegian. He's actually born in Leeds.
Leeds.
He was born in Leeds, and his father, who I'm
Played.
not even going to try
Oh
to
yeah, don't
pronounce
do
his
that.
name, played for Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and Manchester City, in addition to
Yeah.
being a Norwegian international. So there's been speculation that because he's from that
Yeah.
northern part of England, because his father played on City, because City need another striker. And unfortunately, I could see it happening, to be completely honest. There's a financial prerequisite that's met because of
Yeah.
City. There's a drive that Holland wants.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that would be like the end of like competition in the Premier League as we know it, I think.
Absolutely. And nobody wants to see that who's a true fan. Okay, I got one last question for you before I let you go for this episode. And I want you
Mm-hmm.
to answer it in terms of you have an answer now, speak to recent news, and then I kind of want you to say we'll talk more about this later because this is a really, really interesting question, or at least subject. Let's call it subject. So I'm sure you've seen
Okay.
recently, really throughout the last year and a half, that the Champions League is experimenting behind closed doors with a new format.
Oh.
And obviously, um, I believe that as fans of anything, we get stuck in our ways and we don't like to see change. I'll be honest with you, I feel two different ways about it. But the UCL has been talking about making to stop these big teams going to a super league. They've been talking about making their own table to where they would play in table format instead of group format. And they want to incorporate some other things that hasn't been known to the public yet. There's just been rumors. My question to you is, do you think the UCL should shake up their format to keep it fresh? And do you think the Europa should follow suit? And I want to give you an example of why I think, and I'll get into it after you, they should. Recently, the NBA has changed their playoff format. So it used to be 16 teams or 15 teams in each conference, the West and the East. And what they did was the top 8 from each would meet in the playoffs. So like 1 versus 8, 2 versus
Mm-hmm.
7, you get the point. Um, this year, or really last year, they incorporated a play-in tournament to where they were like, hey, let's try to get these games at the end of the season to mean more. So what they started doing was they said the 7th and the 8th seed will play each other. Whoever loses has to play the 9 and the 10 seed winner. So that way these teams who usually wouldn't be included in the playoffs were included, and they had to play themselves into the tournament. So they had a lot more to fight for at the end of the season where things start to wind down and people start to accept their positions in the table. And I love it. I think most fans love it. I think actually all fans of NBA love it. They didn't like it at first, then they loved it because of all the drama that it added to the NBA season. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it just showed that if you do at least give a new format a chance, you can get a lot of good feedback from it, experimentation, and you shake it up and you keep it fresh. Give me your thoughts on the
So
UCL and should Europa do the same thing?
So are you asking me about the idea of making like an actual league, like has been discussed before, or them just altering the current
Both.
structure, right? Because I know they're talking about making a super league. Okay, I guess for both I'm against. For Champions League, Super League, I'm vehemently against
Okay.
that. I think it is an absolutely disgusting cash grab and attempt by the top teams of every single league to forever monopolize themselves and just continue to kind of leech off of the teams that will never get a chance. So I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think that any team that supports it is really just kind of giving into corporatism and kind of going away from what football is
Okay.
about. That's why I don't support that. Now, that being said, if we're talking about altering the current structure of the Champions League to maybe include a table,
Okay.
I think that is maybe a more realistic goal, but I still don't support it, right?
Why?
The reason I'm more lenient on this one is because I think if we're just altering the structure to make it more dramatic, that ebbs more towards the culture of football and towards the excitement of the games, right? So that's more for the fans. So I would be more willing to listen to it. The reason I don't like it is because if we add a table type of structure, there's inevitably going to be more games, and because of that, it's just going to stress the teams too much. I think the group structure is fine. I think the Champions League, the way it is as far as pairings go, it's fine. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. The really only thing I want to see from the Champions League right now is for them to get rid of the away goals rule, and for them just to play, if it's a tie, it has to go to the final. That's really the only rule I think that doesn't make a ton of sense that I would want to see implemented.
I absolutely love it because it messes with your head. So why do you not like it?
Well, the reason I don't like it, there's a couple reasons. So I think it should be done away with regardless, but I think in the COVID-specific environment, you could argue that there's no real fan advantage, so there's no real way to have it. There's no real reason to have an away goal rule. So that's number one. Number two, it increases drama for the viewers whenever we're going to overtime. Penalty kicks, like that is like insane levels of drama, of theater. Like you love to see that kind of stuff. You want to see that game-winning goal, right? But whenever we have the ability for teams to win on aggregate, I mean, look at how crappy that PSG-Bayern Munich game was. PSG literally lost to Bayern Munich 1-0, and they still won because they turtled, absorbed pressure. So what it does is it just sets up this weird setting where it incentivizes a situation where it's basically attack versus defense, and one team can just turtle. It was the same situation with Arsenal versus Slavia Praha. Slavia Praha and Arsenal were 1-1 going into the second leg, but Prague were ahead on the aggregate goals, meaning that even though we were tied, they didn't need a score to win. And they just set up super defensive, low blocks. That type of stuff is boring. I want to see free-flowing football, and I don't think we should be creating incentives in football for people to score less.
Do you think you're taking away the element?
As you can see, I've had a lot to think about it.
So so do you think you're taking away the element of the travel to like that Eastern European country, and then having to play in their environment, and then the fact that that works to their advantage because they can try and use that against you, and the fact that they can play a different tactic, come to your home, and then they have an advantage?
It's the same it's the same thing if I play in Hungary and I have to go to Anfield. You know, I think the really only difference is just the way it's structured as to who plays who first. But I think if you get rid of the away goals, it actually takes away some of the advantages and disadvantages, right? Because here's the thing too, right? If you are playing at home and a team comes to play at your home, you're going to play more defensive as well because you don't want to give up that away goal. People generally don't want to watch football to watch teams play defensively and cautiously, right? Like they just don't. So I don't understand why we have rules that basically like emphasize that. Like the fact that you can score and like it basically counts as 2 goals is just so dumb. Like in my opinion, like it's archaic.
I'm not gonna say it's archaic, but I do feel you. I feel you on that. Okay.
Yeah. I think the way the Champions League is right now, as far as the actual formatting, it makes sense. I would like to maybe see the prize money be distributed a little bit more evenly, though, to be honest.
Do you think teams like Man City should be able to get any prize money?
Yeah, I mean, if you win, you deserve to get a prize. Like, you still need that incentive. But I just think because you winning like boosts like your income through the fans, through like the way it's set up right now, like. Not only do you make money as a direct payout from winning the Champions League, but you also get paid proportionally based on how incentivizing you are for the people who make the TV schedule.
Let me be more specific then.
Right.
For the absolute payout, and I don't mean anything else that comes from the tournament as far as incentives. I just mean the absolute tourney prize. Do you think teams like Man City should get anything when they are technically paying for the championship?
No, in general, in a tournament, you need a prize structure and you need award money, but I just don't think it should be as much as it is because it's a very it's effect where a lot of people get clumped up at the top because of all the add-ons that come with it.
So you think they should still get some money?
That's my biggest thing. Yeah, 100%. It's still a tournament, right?
No,
right? Because a lot of teams. No, you don't think so? Just the
I
trophy?
think you should just get, hey, you know what? You bought your players, you did the damn thing, here's your trophy. But you
But
spent
here's the
this
thing,
amount
though.
of
If you
money
look at
and you
clubs,
went over this certain amount, so you don't get the tourney prize. It gets distributed evenly against teams who did stay under this cap.
are we just talking about like soccer socialism at this point? No,
So,
I mean, I think you should get some money.
So you're saying that we should bring political ideology into soccer. So you're saying
No.
soccer capitalism, which is a thing, is fair.
So I'm not going to make too many comments
Yeah.
on soccer capitalism because I don't know what it is, to be completely honest. What I am saying, though, if you have a prize structure and a team that wouldn't generally do that well, if they get into that, then they're making a lot of money that means a lot to them, right? Like when Ajax got to the semifinal, the amount of money they made from that prize structure is going to be a decent bit that they can use.
Which is fair,
That's
but
more of like the
Ajax
angle
isn't
I'm hitting
spending
on.
$200
Well,
million dollars in the summer.
well, I mean, if you look at the payouts, it's not like $200
It's
million
not.
dollars. That I can check.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
So I mean, I can see what you're saying. I think it's a very minute detail, but like
Interesting.
it's a tournament, so like some cash prize should come with it.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all you got. I got nothing crazy considering we're at 50 minutes, dude. I liked the follow-ons for this separate episode. Some of the deeper in-depth analysis. It's been fun. Emerging from my cave where I haven't shaved or cut my hair for 3 weeks. No, I've done those things, but I haven't talked about football candidly for a while. So I appreciate that, Knight. And to all our ordinary footballers friends, for myself, Flash, I appreciate you tuning in and giving your feedback. And I will give the hammer to you, Knight, to kind of wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so great talk as always. Guys, obviously a lot going on, and as we get back to normality around the world, hopefully we can continue to do this more and especially talk about some really great topics as always. If you have any suggestions, please email us, which you can find on our Instagram. Watch our YouTube channel, leave comments, let us know what you think, subscribe, all of that wonderful stuff. When we come back for the next time, I think we will talk a little bit more, obviously, about some atmospherics surrounding the upcoming summer transfer season. Additionally, maybe we can talk more about a potential salary cap rule that maybe needs to be enforced in European
Ooh.
football, and we can talk more about what that would mean. But until next time, ordinary footballers, we appreciate you, we love you, and stay classy out on the pitch.